Hare Krishna. Welcome to this episode of Bhagavad-gītā. Today we'll be studying today we'll be studying the last verse of the 8th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, which is devotional service surpasses all other pious activities and every other meritorious activity that may be conceived of. So we will quickly say our Mangalacharan prayers, invoking the blessings of Srila Prabhupada and the entire Sampradaya, and then we will begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So please share this class in the social media and WhatsApp groups so that more people can join. So today we will be studying this 8.28, the last verse of the 8th chapter. A very important verse. It summarizes the 7th and 8th chapters of Bhagavad-gītā, in fact. So we will just quickly chant the verse and try to study it. vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam atyeti sarvam idaṁ viditvā yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam. vedeṣu, in the study of the Vedas; yajñeṣu, in the performances of yajna, sacrifice; tapaḥsu, in undergoing different types of austerities; cha, also; eva, certainly; dāneṣu, in giving charities; yat, that which; puṇya-phalaṁ, result of pious work; pradiṣṭam, indicated; atyeti, surpasses; tat sarvam, all those; idaṁ, this; viditvā, knowing; yogī, the devotee; paraṁ, supreme; sthānam, abode; upaiti, achieves; cha, also; cādyam, original. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: a person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Purport. This verse is the summation of the 7th and 8th chapters, which particularly deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for a from 5 to 20 years, he may become a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. Very important sentence. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into household life and marry. When he is a householder, he has to perform many sacrifices so that he may achieve further enlightenment. He must also give charity according to the country, time, and candidate, discriminating among charity in goodness, in passion, and in ignorance, as described in Bhagavad-gītā. This is described in the 17th chapter, by the way. Then, after retiring from household life, after accepting the order of vanaprastha, he undergoes severe penances, living in forests, dressing with tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the orders of brahmacharya, householder life, vanaprastha, and finally sannyas, one becomes elevated to the perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they become liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti or in the Vaikuntha planets or Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by Vedic literatures. The beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. The words idaṁ viditvā indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā. One should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with devotees. Chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of Bhagavad-gītā. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like coverings for the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad-gītā, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. One who has a little faith in Bhagavad-gītā should learn Bhagavad-gītā from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter it is stated that clearly that Bhagavad-gītā can be understood only by devotees. Bhaktosime sakhacheti rahasyam hi etaduttamam. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of Bhagavad-gītā. One should therefore learn Bhagavad-gītā from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and finally gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad-gītā. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God and Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of Bhagavad-gītā and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad-gītā in the matter of attaining the Supreme. Now there is a lot of nice important things that need elaboration and not need elaboration. Prabhupada's purports are complete in themselves. But again, we can discuss them. Each line can be expanded and discussed extensively. That is the nature of spiritual topics. each and every detail can be studied with great elaboration. Although something is complete, it can also be infinitely more complete. We have seen the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sarvam Bhattacharya, and later on with Sanatana Goswami. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the Atmarama verse 1.7.10 of Srimad Bhagavatam in 61 different ways. He explained. So, but of course, Prabhupada gave one meaning in the one translation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave 61 different ways to explain that verse. And each of them goes into, so much um, depth. So, spiritual topics are like that. Bhagavad-gītā, Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, however many times we may read these books, uh, you can always find newer and newer things based on your study and realization and according to one's service. So, anyway, let's start. So, I remember giving, I think, this class in 2009, where and I remember even how I started it. That this was, anyway, uh, so people think, many people are of this idea that devotional service is to just engage in, singing and chanting and doing some seva. It doesn't require much of intelligence, and therefore it is meant for the less intelligent people. And those who are intelligent, they take to jnana kanda, where you can, you philosophically, like the Mayavadis, the Shankaracharya followers, they say that one must study Vedas and Vedanta Sutra. But actually, they don't understand the Vedas anyway, but they very elaborately and meticulously study the Vedas. But Krishna, in the Brahma Samhita, it is said, and Lord Brahma says, Krishna is not found just by reading the Vedas independently without the shelter of a devotee. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā 4.3, which Prabhupada said in the mentions in the purport, that why am I speaking to you, Arjuna? Why did I choose you to revive the parampara or sampradaya? Because bhakto se mein sakha cheti. I did not choose you because you were some pandit. You are not known to be a pandit. You are not known to be any sannyasi or brahmachari or any of those things. You are not known for your Vedanta study. You are known for your archery. But then why did I choose you? Because you are my devotee. You can understand all the imports of the Vedas just by being my devotee, and therefore you can understand what I'm saying. Otherwise, the same thing, if Krishna speaks to a non-devotee, the non-devotee does not understand. And actually, Krishna is speaking. The Bhagavad-gītā is there. And when a non-devotee reads, whenever you're reading Bhagavad-gītā, you should know that Krishna is speaking to you through those words, through the pages of Bhagavad-gītā. It is actually Krishna speaking. But a non-devotee does not understand. Why? Because he is not a devotee. So we must be in agreement with Krishna, and then Krishna will reveal this thing to the devotee. And from such a devotee who has been revealed this knowledge, one should hear. That's why Krishna says in the 434, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Go to the tattvadarshi, those who have seen the tattva. Vadanti tat tattvamidam vadanti tat tattvamidas tattvam yajñanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. One has to go to the knower of the truth, tattvadarshi or tattvavit, one who knows the truth, one who has seen the truth. So, Here, many people say, "Oh, I will directly go to Krishna." When Krishna is asking us to go to Guru, people say, "I don't need a Guru. I will go directly to Krishna. Why I need agent, intermediary agent?" No, Krishna says you must go through agent because in Adi Puran, Krishna says, "Ye me bhaktajana partha, na me bhaktascha te jana, mad bhaktanam cha ye bhaktas, te me bhakta tamamata." One who considers himself my devotee, I don't consider him my devotee. But if he considers himself a devotee or a servant of my devotee, then yes, I will begin to consider him as my devotee. So he wants to see our humility. And by surrendering to a pure devotee and accepting the knowledge coming from him, knowing him to be in perfect knowledge of Krishna, that's how, with unflinching faith in Guru and Krishna, one achieves the knowledge of the Vedas and one will be situated in the mode of action that is required after having acquired the knowledge. Abhideya, which is the action, the relative function of the individual soul towards the Supreme Soul, which is bhakti, engagement in bhakti. यस्य देवे परा भक्तिर् यथा देवे तथा गुरौ तस्येते कथिता हि अर्थाः प्रकाशन्ते महात्मनः. Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.23. So unless one has unflinching faith in Guru and Krishna, one cannot understand any of these things about spiritual matter. What to speak of spiritual matter, even material matters we cannot understand. We will have a distorted understanding, distorted view of even material things. What to speak of spiritual things. Like I mentioned a few times in the recent lectures that two people, two gentlemen from America, they were Indians. They were arguing and like trying to discuss the position of the planets and then the astronomy of the universe. You know, so they could not digest the fact that any idea other than what the modern science offers can be the truth. They cannot digest that idea. They are very much addicted to modern science in that way, and they do not consider the imperfection of their own senses, and they keep on doubting the statements of the Shastras because they don't coincide with our experience or the scientists' experience of what or the explanation given by the scientists about the planets and everything. So that is even material subject. It is not even a spiritual subject yet. But that also they cannot understand. They cannot understand. I said forget about the fifth canto and the position of the planets. Come to Bhagavad-gītā, the basic. Krishna said, I spoke to the sun god, Vivaswan, this Bhagavad-gītā. So do you believe that? He said, well, then I don't believe that. There are many other nice things in Bhagavad-gītā, but that part I cannot believe. So this is where the fallacy lies. When we don't take to the process wholeheartedly, 100%, and choose to take whatever we want, and then reject, then we will not have the actual fruit of studying the Bhagavad Gita. Well, he cleverly put the argument back to me, trying to say that, hey, you are also doing Ardhakukuti because I told him you are following the Ardhakukuti, the philosophy of half a hen. That means, the back side of the hen is giving me eggs, the front side I have to feed. So let me cut my losses and increase my profits. So let me cut the throat so that I don't have to feed. And let me just take the eggs only every day. But then the whole chicken is gone, and then the eggs also can't be gotten. So the whole purpose is lost. One cannot get any advantage from that. So that is the meaning of Ardhakukuti Nyaya. When you take away some part of it and accept another part, actually you cannot accept anything. Nothing will be a base. Like you can't take Bhagavad-gītā as an authority if you reject some part and accept some part. Just because it resonates with your beliefs, you may think, oh, Krishna spoke something which I also agree with. Here, Krishna speaks something which I don't agree with. So you are calculating the authenticity of Bhagavad Gita according to what you believe. So you are the benchmark of what is truth and what is false, or is Krishna, God, the supreme, perfect person? He is the benchmark. So this is the fallacy. And the Adhakukuti Nyaya means not only accepting half a thing and rejecting the other half, but the result of such half acceptance is the complete loss of everything. Because in the end, one will not gain the real benefit of that Bhagavad Gita is offering. Bhagavad Gita is not meant there to convince us that there is life on the sun. No, that is just a side detail. But the real thing about Bhagavad Gita is to get us back to the spiritual world. I mean, stop our karma, induce us to surrender to Krishna, and go back to Krishna. So that's the whole program of Bhagavad Gita. So if I don't have faith in some words of Krishna, and I do have faith in some words of Krishna, it actually means I have no faith in anything that Krishna says. I only agree with those things that Krishna says, some of the things that Krishna says, because I agree with it. So every time I am calculating with what I am agreeing or I am not agreeing to. So that is the exact opposite of what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. You give up all these so-called ideas and formulations you have in your mind and surrender to me. So, by having a different opinion than Krishna, where Arjuna also speaks, he teaches us how to accept what Krishna says. He says, Sarvameta dhritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava. Whatever you said, Krishna, I accept as truth. Not that I accept as truth this part, Krishna, but that part I don't agree with. Arjuna did not say like that. So Krishna is the perfect master and Arjuna is the perfect student. And we have to learn the perfect knowledge from the perfect master as the perfect student received it. And that is the way to receive it. Knowledge is perfect. But if we don't receive it in the perfect way, then we will not have access to that knowledge. So the result is not achieved. That's why it is said, Agnyascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam lokosti naparo nasukham samshayatmanaha. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness, they fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Same thing is said 332. ये त्वे तदभ्यसूयन्तो नानु तिष्ठन्ति मे मतम् सर्वज्ञानविमूढांस्तान् विद्धि नष्टानचेतसः. But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. The same thing is echoed in the 9th chapter, 3rd verse. अश्रद्धधानाः पुरुषा धर्मस्यास्य परन्तप अप्राप्य मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्यु संसारवर्त्मनि. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. The same thing is echoed in 16th chapter, 23rd verse. यः शास्त्रविधिम् उत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारतः न स सिद्धिमवाप्नोति न सुखं न परां गतिम्. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. The same thing is echoed in 18th chapter, 58th verse. मच्चित्तः सर्वदुर्गाणि मत्प्रसादात् तरिष्यसि अथ चेत्त्वम् अहङ्कारान् न श्रोष्यसि विनङ्क्ष्यसि. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So how many times do we want to hear this, that if we don't accept Krishna's version, we are lost? Everything, every endeavor will become a failure. Another place also Krishna confirms this. 9:12. मोघाशामोघ कर्माणो मोघ ज्ञान विचेतसः राक्षसीम् आसुरीं चैव प्रकृतिं मोहिनीं श्रिताः. This atheistic. If I don't accept the words of Krishna, that is atheism. Do you know that? Even though I may have kind of faith in Krishna, if I don't have the faith in the words of Krishna, and even some of those words, I'm an atheist. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defines that. Buddhists are atheists because Vedana Mania Bauddha hoita Nastik. Vedana Mania. So they don't believe in the Vedas, the statements of the Vedas, and therefore they are Nastik. And here, Asurim. So, Moghasha, Mohakarma, those who are thus bewildered by and are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded conditions, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. I mean, how many times? Six shlokas I have shown just from the Bhagavad-gītā, where Krishna is saying that if you don't follow his path, you will be gone. So that is the meaning of ardhakukuti. It's not just half acceptance or half rejection, but the result of such half acceptance will be a complete loss of everything. Whereas he put the argument to me that, okay, you are actually ardhakukuti because you are accepting scientific inventions, you're taking advantage of them, you're moving about in cars and aeroplanes, you're using laptop, computer, phone, apps and browsers and keyboard, all these technologies you're using. Everything. I mean, even the building that you have is constructed by engineers who have studied science and all these things, and yet you are not accepting that they went to space and they went to moon and they went to Mars, and their idea of space is correct. You are accepting some part of the science, but you're not accepting other part. You are adhikokuti nyaya, he told me. But let's study that for a while. If I have now, okay, I have half accepted, right? Half accepted some of the scientific inventions and technologies, and I'm not having faith in some other technologies. But did I lose everything? I don't think so. And therefore, it's not ardhakukuti nyaya. Because with this, I am only using, this is called yukta vairagya. It is completely different from ardhakukuti nyaya. That we are using whatever is, we don't deny that science has made some advances in the way of communication, in the way of all these things, in terms of technology. We don't deny. Of course, much better technology was there before, and it was only accessible to qualified people, accessed by qualified people, which preserved the sanctity of and sanity of human civilization. Now what is happening? He said, hey, you see, Sanjaya could see the battlefield from far away. Yes, okay, that was a technology you claim, fine. But now millions of people can see, what is happening in other parts of the world with this some modern technology. So which is better? Only one person Sanjaya seeing is better, or millions of people seeing is better? Then I told him, no, that one person seeing is better. Because millions of people, now that one person Sanjaya, with his power of television, he saw Kurukshetra battle and he saw the Bhagavad-gītā of Krishna and he narrated it to Dhritarashtra. So he became purified, Dhritarashtra became purified by the entire science of Bhagavad-gītā. Now, the modern present day population of Kali Yuga, they are given this same power. What are they seeing? They are not seeing Kurukshetra, they are not seeing Vrindavan or Mathura. What are they seeing? They are seeing nonsense, some sports, some politics, some news, some movies. So, you give the same power to idiots, then they will do stupid things. And their whole life is wasted. The entire human life is wasted because of this. And I said, you cannot sustain your technological advancement if it is not commercialized. Like, for example, you have created this technology. He said, oh, now the very fact that we're talking on a WhatsApp call in real time from, like 12,000 kilometers apart or whatever, 1,000 kilometers apart is itself an achievement. It's a magical achievement. It could not be imagined about 100 years ago or 200 years ago. Okay, fine. Yes. But we are talking about Krishna. What about those people? Now, to sustain this technology that we are speaking with WhatsApp and everything, it has to be profitable. Otherwise, you cannot sustain it. So, yes, individually, if you see, okay, in individual interactions, okay, it is enabling something fast and something, you know, um, bridging the distances between two places by, being able to talk and all that. But because you cannot sustain it without making it profitable, you for your R&D, research and development and all these things, you need money, and for that you have to sell these handphones and this technology. It all has to be profitable for you, and for it to be profitable you need as many customers as possible, and therefore you have to make it available to a wide consumer base. With that, what happens? The amount of noise, the amount of, like if there are 100 birds in one tree or something, in the morning you hear so much chirping, so much noise. Uh, and at least the birds are chirping about, some food and, some necessities, material necessities of life. We are creating anarthas. Anartha means completely unnecessary things. For example, what is the use of spending billions and billions of dollars on sports? What is the use? What is the use in big movies, which just promote nonsense? What is the use? If it is not used for Krishna, what is the use? But this is what billions, and these movies make billions, billions upon billions. Some made up story, and then people just watch entertainment, and they are wasting their time. The movies, I know, they are seen as, the movie stars are seen as some, real heroes, and, like, role models, and some financial, some businessmen, they are making money out of this whole machine. So that social intercourse that happens when you give the power to so many people who don't know the aim of life and who have uncontrolled senses, then what happens? It will give rise to a very dangerous situation. And I asked him, so if the technology is now available to everyone, yes, but has the world situation, has the mentality, has the psychology of the collective psychology of the population become better or worse? Are people psychologically more stronger or weaker now? Of course, the answer is weaker. They're becoming weaker and weaker by the day, and they're moving more and more towards atheism. So, is that a good outcome of your technological advancement? So, how can you call it advancement? Whereas the Vedic science is a subtle way of science where that same power can be had by subtle means which does not have to be profitable and therefore does not need a wide consumer base. By one's own yogic power, one can access these things. And by the blessings of Vyasadeva, Sanjay could access what was going on in Kurukshetra. So you look at that. That is qualified access to technology. And they will use it for the right purpose. Narad Muni can go anywhere, wherever he wants. But what is he doing with that power? He's not going around starting companies and, having export business. Okay, I will come here, I will take some parijat flower from the heavenly planets and I will export it to earth and I will make some money there. No, he's not doing these things. So what is he doing? He is preaching Krishna consciousness. So he's not doing it for his sense gratification. And that power that he has of going anywhere and everywhere without a visa, without any limitations, without any vehicles, he doesn't even need a plane. Just by his will, he can travel. And of course, Durvasa Muni can do that, many other sages, but they do it for highly elevated reasons. They are not cheap, they don't do it for cheap reasons, just to, find girlfriends everywhere and every planet. That's not their interest. Or some business ventures. Let me start some export and import business, interplanetary export import business. Instead of international export import, interplanetary export import. I will start something. No, not interested. So, this is the um, advantage of Vedic science. It is only qualified access is given. Even the Vedas, they are only taught to Brahmanas, who are qualified Brahmanas, not just by birth. Of course, by birth they used to be qualified after that. But nowadays, that's all gone. That's a different issue. But the thing is this qualified access. So, anyway, coming back to the point of today's verse, people think that, okay, just to finish that point again, that ardhakukuti. So, it is not ardhakukuti when I accept some part of the scientific discoveries and not accept another part. They can do some things within some range. Beyond that range, they cannot do. Within this atmosphere, within the, these things can be done. Not much beyond this atmosphere. Not much can be done. Can be done, but not the way they do. More subtle ways to do it. That used to be, the great sages who used to travel, like Narad Muni and all that. So anyway, coming back here. So people think, generally the Mayavadis, they think that devotional service is for those who are less intelligent and who are not so intelligent. For women, Shudras or children, they can do some seva. Some people say, oh, I do my karma yoga and my wife does bhakti yoga. One man told me like that. I do my karma yoga, she does her bhakti yoga. In this way, both of us are, spiritually situated. What is this karma yoga? Going to office every day and coming back. So he thinks work is worship. That is my way of worship. That is Vivekananda's philosophy, nonsense. And she is doing bhakti yoga because she is housewife and she is not so capable of working at the levels of intelligence that I can do. So she at the same time she is also afforded this opportunity. So she does her bhakti yoga, I do my karma yoga. So it's all the same. No, no. And Shankaracharya wrote that song Mohamudgara, where he says, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. Don't try to manipulate the word jugglery of these Vedas and try to grammatically you know um, you know manipulate the meaning and try to dissect and trisect the meaning of the Vedas. In that way, you fool, just worship Govinda, Krishna. So that is what the meaning is. But Mayavadis say, in fact, these two people who I was arguing with, so they told me that, okay, you are saying like this, but there are some people who say that the meaning is different. Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. If you are a fool, then you worship Govinda. Fool, you worship Govinda. Intelligent person, you study Vedanta. This is the interesting. Bhaja Govindam is an instruction for fools who are not so intelligent. For intelligent people, Vedanta. That is how they are explaining. But that is exactly what he says. What he doesn't say in that. He says, "Nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane." These grammatical, understanding will not help you. Of course, they say, "Oh, this will not help a fool because a fool cannot understand all these things." Is Bhaja Govindam. But then, if you see the entire song, he is glorifying Krishna. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam, iha samsare bahudustare, kripaya pare pahi murare. Who is Murari? Krishna. So, kripaya pare. Kripaya apara. Unlimitedly merciful Krishna, Murari. Please save me from this. So, Krishna is only our shelter. Even Shankaracharya admits that, but they don't want to accept. So, it is not. In fact, this verse says that once one has come to Krishna consciousness, yogi param sthānam upaiti cādyam. Yogi, he is when we're talking about yogi, we're talking about devotee. How do we know? Because Krishna has already said that. Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi jnanibhyo pimatodhikah karmibhyaschadhiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. So, ascetic is the yogi that we know. Oh, yogi, some yoga, he's doing breathing and pranayama, asana, and all this. That is the ascetic. A yogi is greater than that. So, what is this yogi being talked about? Devotee. Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. And there, he, although all of them are also yogis, but he classified this yogi as this is pure yoga. Devotional service bhakti yoga is pure yoga. Whereas all the others, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, and Yoga Mishra Bhakti. But this is pure bhakti. So yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamomataha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So after Krishna has already established this, and later on in the 7th chapter he says, Bahunam janmanamanti jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvameti samahatma sudurlabhaha. So the jnani, who after many millions of births or thousands or hundreds of births, he will, if he surrenders to Krishna, then he is Mahatma. So when Krishna has already qualified what the supreme occupation is, which is devotional service and surrender to Krishna, will Krishna again go back to some yogi which is which is not um, a devotee? No. And therefore we have to understand tapaḥsu, that yogi who is in the Himalayas doing this tapasya, he is a tapasvi. But here Krishna already mentioned vedeṣu, yajñeṣu, tapaḥsu caiva, dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam. So atyeti means he surpasses all these achievements of Vedavadis, Yajñavadis, Tapasvis, Dānavadis, those who give charity, philanthropic activities, and Yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam, whatever they achieve, atyeti. Atyeti means what? Surpasses. Yeah, you see? Atyeti surpasses. Tat sarvam, all those, including tapaḥsu. That means this yogi is different, is a devotee. Paraṁ sthānam upaiti. He achieves the highest station, which is the spiritual world. Atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam. So this is confirmed by Devahuti in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I think you all know the verse maybe. If you don't know, then what are you doing? 333:7. Actually 6 and 7, let's see. Yannāmadheya shravanānukirtanād yat prahvanād yat smaranadapi kvachit Shvadopi sadyah savanaya kalpate kutah punaste bhagavannu darshanat. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face. Even a person born in a family of dog eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him. So, let's see. Utters the holy name, chants about him, which is like Bhagavad-gītā or Srimad Bhagavatam, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or remembers him. All these are included in the Navavida Bhakti, which is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Archanam, Mandanam, Padasevanam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. All these are included in this verse. So if a devotee does any of this devotional service, he immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices, even if he is a dog eater. Usually dog eaters are not eligible, but they become eligible just by chanting. And the next verse even more emphatically what is that? Emphatically establishes this point. अहोबतश्वपचोतो गरीयान् यज्जिह्वाग्रे वर्तते नाम तुभ्यं ते पुस्तपस्ते जुहुवुः सस्नुरार्या ब्रह्माणुचुर्नाम गृह्णन्ति ये ते. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the families of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your Lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your Lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. Again, same point. They are not bereft. Those who are engaged in devotional service are not bereft of all the other results of all these other pious activities. In fact, it's not that, oh, they're not bereft, so they have all the results of the pious activity. No, no, no. Their opulence cannot be compared even if you multiply those puṇya-phalaṁ by 1,000,000 and 1,000,000,000 times. गोकोटिदानं ग्रहणे खगस्य प्रयागगङ्गोदककल्पवासः यज्ञायुतं मेरुसुवर्णदानं गोविन्दकीर्तेर्न समं शतांशैः. Even if one distributes 10 million cows in charity, dāneṣu, during an eclipse of the sun, which is considered a very pious activity, 10 million cows, lives at the confluence of the Ganga and Yamuna for millions of years, or gives, of course, lives at the confluence means he's worshipping those rivers, bathing in those rivers, drinking that water, after doing all that for millions of years, or gives a mountain of gold in sacrifice to the Brahmanas. Yajñayutam meru suvarna danam, like a Meru mountain size of gold, if he is giving charity to Brahmanas, he does not earn 100th part of the merit derived from chanting Hare Krishna. Govinda kirter nasamam shatam shaihe. Now you see, what is the. It is not that he is just not bereft of the results of the others, but those results of the others are nothing for him. Are nothing for him. This is stated in another way by this Bilumangal Thakur. Okay. भक्तिस्त्वयि स्थिरतरा भगवन्यदि स्याद् दैवेन नः फलति दिव्यकिशोरमूर्तिः मुक्तिः स्वयं मुकुलिताञ्जलिसेवते स्मान् धर्मार्थकामगतयः समयप्रतीक्षाः. O my Lord, if one engages in your pure devotional service with determination, you become visible in your original transcendental youthful form as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as liberation is concerned, she stands before the devotee with folded hands waiting to render service. Religion, economic development, and sense gratification are all automatically attained without separate endeavor. Now, with these vedeṣu, yajñeṣu, tapaḥsu, caiva, dāneṣu, all this puṇya-phalaṁ, what is the phalam of this punya? That one gets, a birth in an aristocratic family, which is, you can say, a religious background, religion. Economic development, one may have, wealth, janmaishwarya, shruta, shribhir. Aishwarya means wealth. Shruta means intelligence. Of course, religion, to be religious is also intelligent. And of course, janma, a good aristocratic birth, that is, can be considered as a religious birth. And Aishwarya, Aishwarya, economic development. Shri, what is that? Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribhir, beauty, which is then you have sense gratification available for you. So religion, economic development, and sense gratification, which is all the puṇya-phalaṁ, and even mukti. Mukti, not only are these religion, economic development, and sense gratification ready to serve such a devotee, but even mukti is ready to serve with folded hands. Mukti is, we are praying for mukti with folded hands, but mukti is praying to a devotee with folded hands. Please engage me in your service. So that is the position of devotee, and we have seen this in the life of Dhruva Maharaj. He says, "Sthanabhilashi tapasi sthitoham tvam praptavan deva munindra guhyam kacham vichinvan api divya ratnam swamin kritarthosmi varam nayache." When he was being blessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dhruva Maharaj said, "O my Lord, because I was seeking an opulent material position, I was performing severe types of penance and austerity. Now I have gotten you, who are very difficult for the great demigods, saintly persons, and kings to attain. I was searching after a piece of glass, but instead I have found a most valuable jewel. Therefore, I am so satisfied that I do not wish to ask any benediction from you." So, this is the higher taste. He wanted a kingdom greater than Brahma. And he saw Vishnu. He could have easily asked that, and Vishnu could have easily given him. But he said, "I'm satisfied just by seeing you." That means to attain Krishna consciousness, once you attain Krishna consciousness, even a position as great as Brahma is insignificant. Kita janma how yathatva das, what is that? Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Kita janma how yathatva das, janme, what is that? Brahma. I don't get the Bengali. So in that Manasa Deho Geho song, he says, "I prefer to be an insect in the house of your devotee rather than a Brahma averse to you." So even Brahma's situation he is not interested in. I mean, people here in this world, they are fighting for some small piece of land. Like India, China. China just, like they came into a little bit of India, and Pakistan is trying to encroach into Indian property. Similarly, there is Israel, Palestine, there is Ukraine, Russia. So many things are going on. Now, just a little bit of land, people are, I mean, they're spending how many lives, how much money, how much destruction they're doing, fighting for just a little bit of land. Now, here, Dhruva Maharaj, all the planets will be under him. How big is that? But it's nothing. And therefore, in the Mukundamala Stotra, he's not interested anymore. Dhruva Maharaj is not interested. Because he has already, why he's not interested? Arey yaar, Vishnu already came, he could have just asked now what foolishness is this. No. That means the attainment of Vishnu is so high that you will lose taste for this. It is stupid to ask Vishnu to give something material again. It is like, there is a story, I don't know from where the story came. So this woman, old woman, she is like, carrying a lot of firewood, a lot of heavy firewood in the through the forest and coming back for cooking, she needs. So she was carrying like that and carrying like that and carrying like that. So in this way, she was shifting her burden. And at one point, it fell down. "Hey Bhagwan, please help me." Then, Bhagwan came, Krishna came, or Vishnu came. And she asked, "Oh Bhagwan, you are here. Please, give me, please put this on my shoulder, this firewood." And Bhagwan put it on the full shoulder and she went home. So that is foolishness, right? Of course, I don't know how much the story is even true. It is just told as just like a moral lesson that why do we have to ask God to give us more burden? When God came, You can easily ask, okay, I've seen you, that's it. I mean, my life is successful. No, no, no. Please put that burden back on me again. Is that a proper thing to ask? So, of course, the story doesn't seem very bona fide or what. But the moral of the story I'm trying to say, people go to God to give them wealth, give them this thing. They're actually asking, please put some burden on my head. Yeah. Give me more burden. These are all burden. In this life, we have come naked and we will go away without anything, right? So why are we carrying all these things? No, you may say, no, I'm not carrying. I'm just I'm not putting it on my head. No, but it is as good as that. Because if you have a lot of wealth, you think it is easy to manage it. There will be a lot of vultures coming for the wealth. First of all, government will come, tax, and then other people will come, try to cheat you. So it is a burden. You have to be worried. That worry is a burden, na? It may not be physical, it is mental, even worse. Physical burden without a mental burden is still fine. But when you have mental burden, you can't even sleep at night. At least after the physical burden you have done, you become tired and you can happily sleep. Mental burden, you cannot even sleep at night. So all these things, we are carrying so many things. We want more and more and more of everything. Burden. And anyway, at the end of life, we are going to be stripped of all of that. And we will go naked again to the next. So here in Mukundamala Stotra, King Kulashekar says, पृथ्वी रेणुरणुः पयांसि कणिकाः फल्गुः स्फुलिङ्गो लघुस् तेजो निःश्वसनं मरुत्तनुतरं रन्ध्रं सुसूक्ष्मं नभाः क्षुद्रा रुद्रपितामहः प्रभृतयः कीटाः समस्ताः सुराः दृष्टे यत्र स तारको विजयते श्रीपादधूलिकणाः. Once our Savior has been seen, we're talking about Vishnu. Once our Savior has been seen, the whole earth becomes no greater than a speck of dust. Who is interested in the dust? They'll sweep it away and throw in the dustbin. That's how important the speck of dust is. So the devotee, for him, the entire earth becomes nothing. What to speak entire earth? The whole universe becomes nothing. All the waters of the ocean become mere droplets. Now in geopolitics, if you understand politics, um, countries are trying to have as much control on the oceans as possible because the trade routes are through the ocean. Much of the trade happens through the seas, a little bit through the air, but much of it through the seas. And also naval bases. They want to have their naval bases so that they can have strategic, um, positioning in case of war, in case of any attack or defense or anything like that. United States has about 400 bases all over the world. Apart from their own country, they have in other places all over the world their own bases. Even in Singapore, they have a base. Likewise, they have bases in Australia, New Zealand, all these vassal states of US. Even many of the European nations, NATO, and even Canada. They have their bases everywhere. And in remote islands in the sea, they have their bases. But for a devotee, not interested. Everything is Krishna's property. You know, uh, I don't need it. He is not interested in occupying anything, nothing. It's unnecessary actually. Then the totality of fire becomes a small, minute spark. Now all the ammunition of the world, we have so much ammunition, nuclear ammunition, this and that, so much firepower we have. All this fire, they keep it as very valuable things. They show off in their Independence Day, the Republic Day parades. They show off their entire army, their firepower, their missiles, their this and that, everything. Warheads, tanks, guns, soldiers, this and that. All that firepower one shows off as a great asset of the country. And countries are judged according to how much nuclear power they have. Russia is the most strongest nuclear power in the world, followed by the US. Now, Russia has about 6,000 nuclear bombs. And US is not very much behind. I think 5,900 or 5,800 nuclear bombs, and India has about like 160 or something. China has about maybe a little more than that. Pakistan has a little bit less than that, 70 or something like that. So, I mean, this fire is it's a symbol of power, right? For the devotee who has seen Krishna, all the totality of fire becomes a minute spark. You're not interested. And the expanse of space becomes a tiny hole. Who's interested in holes? You have a hole in your wall, you will try to plug it. But people are trying to explore space, sending some rockets, some machines into space. So these are all, and they're very fascinated by space and this and that. Big explorations and Hubble telescopes and huge. How much time it takes to build a Hubble the telescope, or even send these things into space. How much of a time waste? How much of life is wasted of these engineers and all these scientists and the finances of the country? Instead, you can help some people and give some housing and build temples and then get them to come there and then distribute prasadam and give them philosophy. Their lives will become perfect. But no, they want to explore space, build nuclear weapons, all these things. So it is not that there is overpopulation, there is lack of this thing. There is enough funds and enough facility for the well-being of everyone. It is only because of political mismanagement and greediness of a certain few section of the people that it is not available to the rest. It is a complete mismanagement only. It's a political propaganda that things are not enough. There is overpopulation. There is scarcity of resources. Now the scientists are saying, "Oh, we need one Earth is not enough. We need to have another planet, Mars. One Earth will not be able to sustain our population." This is nonsense. Prabhupada easily said, 10 times of the current world population can be easily fed. And today, my brother from India, he shared a video with me about uh, I think he's an activist, Indian. I don't know what is his designation, but his Gurumurti, his name. So he's speaking about how Indian style of eating, which is largely a vegetarian diet, even the meat eaters in India, the meat is a side dish, but mainly it's vegetarian. Of course, if it can be all vegetarian, is of course even better. If if the whole world eats like Indians eat, their style of cooking and their style of dishes and all these things, well, he gave some numbers and he took it from ourworldindata.org, that website, ourworldindata.com or something like that. So basically it's this. US, the way United States eat, the people there eat with heavy meat, this thing. You need agricultural land that is, if the whole world eats like United States eats, you need many planets to sustain such a life. Whereas if you eat like what Indians eat, in I think 6 times or something lesser land, you can have the food for the entire world. And that means whatever current agricultural land is there, that land can provide for a much bigger population. These are interesting numbers, and I don't remember those numbers off the head, but this just shows what Prabhupada already said. It's a mismanagement. I mean, there is so much land in New Zealand, there's so much land in Australia, there's so much, but it's completely mismanaged. I mean, India, how small of a country size India is, and it's holding the largest population in the world. I think it has just crossed China to be the largest population in the world. And the land is not as big. Like United States has a bigger land area than India. And United States population is like our Uttar Pradesh in India. And with a population that is at least 4 times bigger than the United States and land area lesser than them, India is sustainable. I mean, the food, everybody can get food. How is it possible? If Indians eat the same way as the United States does, they need 6 Indias land, something like that. Some numbers he was telling. That much agricultural land you need to just produce. Per capita food consumption is very low per Indian, but per American it is very many 100 times higher. A lot of food wastage as well. Because, for example, the same amount of land can only hold very few carnivores, but many herbivores. You see, when a lion hunts, you have seen those videos, right? There are a lot of zebras or deer or some bison or whatever. What is that? Wildebeest or whatever. Now, there are many hundreds or even thousands of those zebras and everything. But in that same land, only like 4 or 5 or maximum 10 lions are there. If you put that many hundreds of lions, first of all, no zebra will even go there, and the lions will starve. So it cannot. So the same amount of land can only support so many carnivores, but a much larger population of herbivores. And we as humans are meant to be herbivores. And if you follow Krishna consciousness, you will have to offer only what is acceptable to Krishna, and that is within the vegetarian category. So, of course, so if people become Krishna conscious, they will automatically become vegetarians, and they will automatically. And India, he even mentioned the numbers of cattle. India has like 300 million cattle, and even Brazil has 257 million, he said. And I think European Union entirely, all European countries put together is about 79 million, and Australia I think something like, I mean, China I think 90 million or something like that, some numbers. India has the largest cattle in the world, and it has the largest population in the world, and still India is going on, and India is even exporting food to other countries. Just imagine. So why is India able to do it? Because more or less Krishna consciousness is still there in India. It is fading away, that's another thing that should be rectified. But there are the structure of civilization based on a Krishna conscious structure, based on the varnashram system, is still current, especially in the villages of India. Although it is eroding at a fast pace, but with the reintroduction of Krishna consciousness, all that can be, adjusted again, readjusted. And we have to follow such examples, such models. So if the answer, what I'm trying to say is, when you're Krishna conscious, then don't need other welfare activities. You're already performing welfare. Like you see today's verse. What is today's verse? dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam. You may say, people ask, "Arey, if I just sit down and chant, how poverty can be addressed? How can this be addressed? How can that be addressed?" Arey, everything can be addressed just by being Krishna conscious and nothing else. Because by Krishna's arrangement, I think there is a proverb, right? There is enough in this world for man's need, but not for man's greed. That's the point here. So if we become greedy, then of course nature will restrict supply. So at individual level and at collective level, whether it is societal level or national or international levels, Krishna consciousness is the answer. And we don't need to do any other tapasya, any other austerity, any other yajna, any other study of this and that. No. Just by becoming Krishna conscious, everything is included. All perfection is there. So if you go to here, the winds, okay, the totality of fire becomes a minute spark. The winds become just a faint sigh. Now the wind is also a huge, what is that? Cause for, I mean, it's a way to control. Every country has its airspace, and they want to control the air. Even the commercial jets, when they pass through, many countries. Suppose you're going from, say, Singapore to America, you have to pass through many countries. Now, how is that possible? Because those countries agree that okay, these flights they can pass through our airspace. They give license, okay, you can pass through. So then these things are done. So if a country, like for example, when Russia or Ukraine war started, Russia said, you can't fly in our airspace. So they have to find different routes to go. So the planes have to go. So air is also being controlled like that. And to defend their airspace, they have a whole defense system which is Air Force. There is another whole, game of war. So the winds become just a faint sigh. For a devotee, why does he need to worry about all these things? Of course, when you're a devotee and still managing a government like Arjuna, yes, he has to learn archery, then he has to learn all these weaponry and warfare, um, the shooting of missiles with arrows, of course, mantra powered missiles. All these things are required for only for protection of Vedic, our dharma. It is required. Prabhupada said missiles also needs to be used in Krishna consciousness. So sometimes it may be required. So that is not against, but it was for that purpose. For personally, Arjuna did not need, because Arjuna wanted to actually walk away from the battlefield in the beginning, because he was of course only thinking of himself. As a devotee, okay, why do I need all these things? I'll go to the forest. I can live. I mean, no problem. I don't need to like kill so many people to live. So he was calculating on his personal front, but Krishna showed him a different picture. No, no, no. See, you have to do this for dharma, and you have to set an example for the future as well, and you have to protect the people. If they are going to have a king like Duryodhan, everybody will become an atheist. Whereas you will make them devotees, and I want such able rulers, and therefore I want to establish you as the king. So it is for the people's sake, for protecting them, their spiritual lives and the material lives. Therefore, the war was taken up, the whole endeavor of war. Yeah, it is not very pleasant, but Krishna, a devotee, is agreeable to take any inconvenience for Krishna's service, but for one's own personal gain, he is not prepared to inconvenience anyone, cause inconvenience to anyone. यस्मान् नोद्विजते लोको लोकान् नोद्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षैर्भवेद्योगैर्. What is that verse? 12:15, I think. हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैर् mukto यः स च मे प्रियः. He for whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. So he for whom no one is put into difficulty. So Arjuna did not want to put any difficulty, did not want to put anyone into difficulty just for his sake. That was the first chapter. Of course, Krishna gave him a whole different thing. So, so in this way we have to understand. So the air, the winds become just a faint sigh, and the expanse of space becomes a tiny hole. Great lords like Rudra and grandfather Brahma become insignificant. Now, why does a devotee not worship the demigods? And all the demigods become like small insects. What does that mean? Who worships an insect? Yastvendra athavendra mahosvakarma. So from the Indragop insect all the way to Indra, everybody is, um, reaping the benefits or disadvantages of their karmic reaction. Um, so in that case, Indragop and Indra, there is not much of a difference. Indra is not much better than the Indragop. Of course, he has a responsible position and all that, but he is also in the karmic cycle only, because the Indragop is a very red, blood red color insect. Small. I actually googled Indragopa. You know, I think. Let me show you Indragopa. You see that? You see the images here? Indragop. You see how big it is? Very small. And it's a very bright red color. Indragop. It's called velvet mites. Red velvet mites. So this is Indragopa insect. And then there is the Indra. That Indragop insect was once Indra also. Like we have been Brahma before. When it first came into this material world, we were Brahma. And we fell down, maybe became a sub demigod and the demigod, and then, like human, and then go into all the way to insect and fish and all that. So whether Indra or Indragop, it's not much of a difference because they're just in that same cycle, some just like in a cycle, in a wheel. When the wheel is turning, sometimes the one part of the wheel is down and another part is up. And when it turns, the down part becomes up and up part becomes down. So the person who is Indra maybe one day becomes Indragop, insect. And Indragop will become Indra. All they are just going around Yasvindragopam Athavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhanu Rupa Phala Bhajana Matanoti Karmani. So Karma Phalam, they are all enjoying their Karma Phalam only. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. This karma can be completely burned to ashes by bhakti bhajam. Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So therefore, because the demigods are also as much tied up, maybe a little bit more freer than the insects, but they are all tied up in the guna. Bhagavad-gītā 18:40. न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्त्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं यदेभिः स्यात्रिभिर्गुणैः. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. So guna means modes of material nature, sattvagun, rajagun, tamagun, but also guna also means rope. And when you mix, like intertwine the three ropes together, and that will become a very strong rope. So everybody is bound. Bandhanu rupa. Bandha means tied up. So even the demigods are tied up. As much tied up as the insects are. Maybe a little bit more free, but still they're tied up. There's no being. It is mentioned here. There's no being either here or among the demigods who is freed from the three modes born of material. So that's why Kita Samasta Sura. The demigods become like insects. And even Brahma and Shiva become insignificant compared to Vishnu when one becomes a Vaishnava. Indeed, even one particle of dust from our Lord's feet conquers all. This is Krishna consciousness. The highest achievement. Yam labdva cha param labham. Yam labdva cha aparam labham. Manyate na adhikam tatha. Yasmin sthito na dukkhena guruna api vicharyate. Sukham atyantikam yaddad buddhigrahyam atindriyam. Vetti yatra na caivayam sitas chalati tatvatah. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitam. So, yam labdva cha aparam labham. There is no, once having achieved Krishna consciousness, he understands that there is nothing higher. I have achieved the highest. Now I am not attracted to the lower things again. Rasavarjam rasopyasya paramdrishtva nivartate. Paramdrishtva. 259. Higher taste. Then you will lose attraction for lower things. And not just lose attraction for lower things. We already have those lower things at our disposal at any time when we want. Because whatever opulences that are there, it is not that, devotees of Krishna become poor, they cannot become rich. When they become, devotees, they will just stop running after wealth. So Krishna tricks them. No, they have no interest. Even if they're wealthy, they're not interested in that. Like Sudama, he was given everything, but he was just still worshipping Krishna in his corner of the house. He was given a palace by Krishna, but he was not interested in the palace. But Krishna gave him the palace. Why? When he's not interested, why he give? Why should you give somebody when he's not interested in that? If somebody needs food, you give him. But somebody's already finished food and then you give him food. What is the use? He already has eaten. No, Krishna wants to show that his devotees are not bereft of all these facilities. They just don't want. But if they want, Krishna will give. And that is also, I think, what is that sloka? I think 8th canto or something. I keep forgetting this. Maybe somebody can help me out in that. 820. These are actually different. Oh, maybe 849. 549 is it? Forty-eight. Hmm. 82452. I'm just like gambling with numbers right now. 82452 is it? No. Hmm. Anyway, Krishna actually, I mean, it is said like that. But even if a devotee wishes to have anything, it is easily provided for by the devotee, by Krishna. Like you see Prabhupada's life, you know, of course, mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate sman dharmartha kamagataya samaya pratiksha. So dharma, artha means wealth. Wealth is waiting to serve the pure devotee. So these things are mentioned. And Prabhupada, you see, when he was in America and when he was preaching, so much wealth came his way. Krishna gave profusely. So that's the way. Krishna will give everything. So it is not that they are just not attracted to it, but actually they have everything at their disposal, but still they're not attracted because all these opulences belong to Krishna, and Krishna belongs to the devotee. So the devotee has access to all these opulences, but he doesn't ask Krishna for any of this. Krishna gives. Krishna becomes a servant of such a devotee, and he gives whatever the devotee wants for preaching. He gives. So, going back to our verse, there are many things in the purport as well. I don't know what is the time now. 8, okay, 9 o'clock. Param sthānam means the supreme abode. So, param brahma, param dhama, pavitram paramam bhavan. So, Krishna is the supreme abode. His Vaikuntha is supreme abode. So, yogi reaches that. Now, here, I want to say some other things in the purport here. So, of course, here Krishna, Prabhupada says that, there are so many rules of, tapasya, brahmacharya has to do, and then there is study of the Vedas, and then there is, sacrifices in householder life, and then charity also must be done in householder life. And then vanaprastha, he again has to do tapasya. So all this vedeṣu, yajñeṣu, tapaḥsu, caiva, he is mentioning in this way in the purport. Hmm? Then some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they're liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti or in the Vaikuntha planets of Krishna Lok. So, but the beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. Rise above the three modes, Arjuna. Krishna is saying. The words idaṁ viditvā indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Krishna in this chapter and 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā. So, having known this, a yogi achieves the highest by devotional service, surpassing all other rituals. Knowing what? Idaṁ. Idaṁ means this. What is this? This knowledge that I have given you. What knowledge? Krishna starts from 7th chapter, first verse. Tat shrunu. What is that? Maya saktamana partha yogam yunjan madashrayah asamshayam samagram mam yatha gyasasi tat shrunu. You will know everything about me. And what is that everything about me? Adhibhutam. First of all, his material causes. The ingredients of his energies are adhyatmam, adhibhutam, adhidaivam, adhiyajñam, karma. All these. So, if you see 7th and 8th chapters, they are mentioning all these things. So, understanding Krishna means all of this. So, having understood all this, a yogi takes to devotional service and attains the paraṁ sthānam, surpassing all other rituals. And therefore, you should know me. That's why it is said in the 4th chapter, 33rd verse, sarvam karmakhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. All the karma, all the karma kanda, sacrifices, yajñas, and study of Vedas, this and that, ends in achieving transcendental knowledge. And transcendental knowledge is the beginning of spiritual life, sambandha. And then there is action in Krishna consciousness, which is abhideya, which is explained in the last chapter, last two verses of the 4th chapter, and continues into 5th chapter and 6th chapter, kind of. So, this is the system. This is the system that is explained by Krishna. So, idaṁ viditvā, having known all this, viditvā means knowing all this. So, idaṁ means the 7th and 8th chapters here. So, one should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with devotees. Chapter 7 through 12 are the essence of Bhagavad-gītā. The first 6 and last 6 chapters are like coverings for the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. Now, this sentence is another interesting sentence. In the original book, this sentence is not there. In the changed one, the sentence is there. So I checked the manuscript, the original manuscript from which the original was written. And in the manuscript, this sentence is there. So Prabhupada actually wanted this to be there, but in the original, if you check, you will not find this sentence. That the first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like the coverings of the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. This is not mentioned in the original book. So this is another aspect of the changing of the changed books, that sometimes, and many times actually, many instances I've seen, they have gone back to the more fidelity with the manuscript, with the original thing that Prabhupada wanted to have. Because you should understand that every issue, whether Bhagavad-gītā, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, they have gone through editors who are Prabhupada's disciples. So some of them had made some mistakes even in the original one. So some of those mistakes were corrected in the changed one. Of course, there were other where they have made mistakes and added unnecessarily. So that is, of course, not welcome. But some of these changes are also done. So it is good. The middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. So if you see, the middle 6 chapters is all about devotional service, and especially the 12th chapter is only devotional service. And again, 13th chapter, he goes back to soul and super soul and, the witness. And then 14th chapter, the 3 modes of material nature. 15th chapter, The Purushottam Yoga, of course, about the Supreme Lord. And he goes to 16th verse, Daiva and Asura, godly and demoniac natures. Then 17th chapter, which is again the faith, divisions of faith in the three modes. And 18th chapter, he kind of summarizes everything and concludes with finally Sarvadharman Parityajya. And I don't remember where exactly I read this, by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Recently only I read, but I forgot where I read it. So he says that when we read Bhagavad-gītā, we have to read it taking the pivot, the last verse, which is Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. That should be the guiding point in understanding any other verse of Bhagavad-gītā. So we cannot, in other words, we cannot understand a verse in our own way without referencing 1866. So this verse, suppose say for example some 5th chapter verse or some 10th chapter verse or some 2nd chapter or 1st or 3rd chapter verse. Now some verses may seem to suggest something else than bhakti or something, some other course of action. Krishna spoke about many yogas and many yajñas and many these things. But we should not consider them as separate ways of achieving, all these different ways of going to the supreme. No, they has to be understood from the viewpoint of the 1866. Always keeping the 1866 in view, we have to see those verses through 1866. So what does that mean? That means these all processes are meant to eventually lead us to this point. So they have no other direction or some other, they're not pointing to some other end. For example, that's why the mountain is like this, so big. Now, when you're climbing a mountain, the roads are all the way winding in this way, that way. Now, sometimes you will face this way, sometimes facing that way, sometimes facing that way, sometimes facing that way. So as you're turning around, you are facing in different ways, and maybe even your elevation is like that, towards that way, but you're not going any other direction but top. So when you see from the top, oh, then you will see the full picture. Okay, all these road is actually leading to the top. So similarly, people may be at different levels in their advancement in this mountain of yoga that they're trying to climb, and accordingly, they may take roads of different direction, seemingly different direction, or some caves sometimes, in different ways. But ultimately, the journey is the end. It has to come to bhakti. That is the whole point. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad-gītā, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. Now, I have told you that I have gone to that manuscript. Let me actually show you the manuscript, because I don't think many of you have actually seen the manuscript, how it looks like. Let me actually show you that. Eighth chapter, okay. This is the manuscript. 8th chapter manuscript. Now, every chapter is a separate PDF. So this is before it went into printing. So we'll go to the last verse, 1828. So here is the 1828. I don't know if you can see, it is too small for you to see probably. So, but here, vedeṣu, yajñeṣu and all these things. Now here he writes, and in fact, it is actually, he's talking, or maybe he's writing, but when he talks in a colloquial way, then they actually edit it to make it, readable. Now, you see here, this is the manuscript, and I don't know, I can't even highlight it because it's a picture, right? So I'll put it at the very top of the page of the screen. You can understand. The understanding of this chapter should be attempted in the association of devotees. These two chapters of Bhagavad-gītā cannot be understood from the academic scholar or the mental speculators. They should be especially the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. These six chapters are the essence of Bhagavad-gītā. There are 18 chapters. The first six chapters and the last six chapters are considered as covering of the middle six chapters. Therefore, the middle six chapters are especially protected by the Lord. So, you see there, I don't know if you can see it, but it is all written there. But he said it in a colloquial way. So, even in the beginning, you know, here. Idaṁ viditvā, understanding the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter as or combined in the 7th and 8th chapters, viditvā, by understanding. And how to understand? The understanding of this chapter should be attempted in the association of devotees. So this is like Prabhupada just speaking, like how he would give a lecture. And then, but you don't find the same words, how to understand, and all these things in the purport there. So they make it readable, like for writing. So this is what the editors used to do. So you have to understand when you say original books, it is not the Prabhupada type like that, and then that's how it came. So the editor, goes through editors, and then Hayagriva was the editor at the time. And sometimes he made also mistakes. So sometimes they get lost. So therefore, sometimes in the later versions, it has been brought back to the original manuscript where Prabhupada was said something which is somehow taken away from um, the original, so-called original books. And if I go to original, let me actually show you that original part. This is Indragopa insect. Prabhupada books. No. .io. What is this? 828. Okay. You see here, if you I think you can see now. So vedeṣu, yajñeṣu, tapaḥsu, caiva, and all this. Now here, one should try to understand the 7th and 8th chapters of Gita not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association of pure devotees. Chapters 6 through 12 are the essence of the Gita. If one is fortunate to understand the Gita, especially these middle six chapters in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances. You see that part where it is covered by the first six and the last six are like the covering of the middle six chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. That part is not even there. They took it out. It is just said that the middle six are the essence of Bhagavad Gita. I mean, meaning doesn't change much, but we can get some additional detail, right? I mean, protected by the Lord. Or something that Prabhupada said, which is not there in the. So when these things have been corrected in the later versions, so that is very much welcome, isn't it? So anyway, coming back here, for one can achieve, okay. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad-gītā, especially these middle six chapters in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. We have seen that. One who has a little faith in Bhagavad-gītā should learn Bhagavad-gītā from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter it is stated clearly Bhagavad-gītā can be understood only by devotees. So, bhakto same sakha atyeti. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of Bhagavad-gītā. One should therefore learn Bhagavad-gītā from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. Faith means, if I want to increase my faith, I have to learn it from the faithful person, and not from the person who does not have faith in this. And who is the faithful person? Like Arjuna. Sarvam etadritam manye. Whatever Krishna you say, I accept. That is a person of faith. Faith means, when you do not know something, but you accept something on the authority. And how do we accept? So he was actually these two people who were arguing with me from America, these Indians, and Vishwambar Prabhu put it nicely. ABCDs, they are called ABCD. American born, confused Desi. Desi means Indian. American born, confused Desi. I think, of course, they are not American born, but pretty much they have accepted their own ideologies very much. But of course, they also have some affinity towards our culture and Vedic culture and all these things. But confused Desi, that is the thing. American born, confused Desi. So these ABCDs, so they were arguing with me, and they were saying like, um, you are having blind faith. This is just blind faith. You are just accepting. No, this is not blind faith. Blind faith is when I have faith in a statement of someone who is not an authority. Without checking the authority of such a person, I have believed him. That is blind faith. But if I believe a person who is authorized, so how do I know he's authorized? How do we know Krishna is authorized? So Arjuna says, Sarvameta dhritam manye yanmam vadasi Keshava. I accept totally whatever you say. Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidur Devana Danava Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarshin Naradas Tatha Asito Devalo Vyasa Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. See, Param Brahma, sorry. So Sarvameta dhritam manye is the next one. I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. Demigods and demons cannot. But great acharyas can. You see, before verse. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. Looks like flattery. Oh, Arjuna is Krishna's friend, that's why he's just flattering him with high sounding words. No, no, no. Ahustvam Rishaya Sarve Devarshir Naradas Tatha Asita Devala Vyasa Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. So, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. So, Arjuna is establishing this that I am accepting, and because you are so authorized, Sarvameta Dhritam Manye, I totally accept as truth. This is not blind faith. So people who have Tattvadarshinah, those who have seen the truth, those who have seen, so they have concluded this about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. So there is complete consistency in the opinion of all the great devotees. Of course, the Devas and Danavas, they cannot know you. But the pure devotees, the Mahajans, they know. Dharmasya tattvam nihito guhayam mahajano yena gatah sapantha. So Mahajans, the Mahatmas who have surrendered to Krishna, who are devotees, pure devotees, they know. And the entire dharma, the secret of dharmic principles, religion is in the heart of such devotees. And whatever they say, I will accept. And you are saying, and they are also saying, it's all consistent, and therefore I'm accepting. So it is not the blind faith. Oh, you're saying, okay, I'll accept. Who are you? I don't know. That is blind faith. No, you are saying this, and all these sages who are especially known for their great knowledge and devotion and mystic abilities and everything, those who can see past, present, and future, Trikalagnyas, they are also saying this about you, and they are Tattvadarshi. They are actually seeing you. And now, of course, Arjuna is also seeing, but he's teaching us how to accept an authority, how to accept authoritative knowledge, how to have faith in the proper authority and not blind faith. And just by accepting that knowledge in that way, we can have access to an entirety of knowledge that Krishna reveals. And our doubts are removed, just finished. Now, I cannot believe myself, I cannot believe my instruments, I cannot believe those scientists, huh? But I can believe Krishna, and I can believe all these sages who has. So, in this way, I can accept. This is not blind faith. So going back, one should therefore learn Bhagavad-gītā from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and finally gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad-gītā. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God and Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of the Bhagavad-gītā and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Gola Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. What is he actually saying here, Prabhupada? He is translating the two verses, Ado Shraddha Tato Sadhu Sangha Atha Bhajana Kriya Atha Anartha Nivritti Syat Tato Nishtha Tat Ruchis Tatah Atha Saktis Tatha Tato Bhava Tata Tato Premabhyudanchati Sadhakanam Ayam Premna Pradurbhave Bhavet Kramaha. This is what is explaining here. So we should know, we should detect these things when we're reading Prabhupada's books. So see, let's again see that. One should therefore learn Bhagavad-gītā from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. Ado Shraddha, faith. Sato Sadhu Sangha. With faith, we will go to devotees. So that is what is mentioned. One should learn Bhagavad-gītā from devotee. Ado Shraddha, Tato Sadhu Sangha. And Bhajana Kriya. When one searches for a devotee and finally gets a devotee's association, Sadhu Sangha, one actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad-gītā. This is what happens in Sadhu Sangha. That is also Bhajana Kriya. By advancement in the association of devotee, one is placed in devotional service. This is Bhajana Kriya. And this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God. Anartha nivritti. About Krishna and God and Krishna's activities, form, pastime, name, and other things. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one study, nishtha. After anartha nivritti, then there's nishtha. Then one relishes the study of Bhagavad-gītā and attains a state of feeling always Krishna conscious. So this is ruchi, taste, relishing. This is taste, and attains a state of feeling always Krishna conscious. This is asakti. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. Of course, this is prema. Bhava is just an more intense feeling, asakti. And then there is prema, love of Godhead. So this is this highest perfectional stage of life. So in this way, so one can relish. Sorry, where am I going? So one can relish the study of Bhagavad Gita when one has listened from a devotee and engaging in devotional service. Shraddhava labhate jnanam tatparah samyatendriyah. So who will get the knowledge? One who has faith, and Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. One who has faith in Guru and Krishna, he receives the jnanam. And tatparah, he is very attached to it. He relishes it. That is what is mentioned here. One relishes. This is chapter 4, text 39. I'm quoting. Sri Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparah samyata. Tatparah means very much attached to it, relishing. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses. Samyatendriya, those who control their senses. Jnanam labdhva paraṁ shantam. Labdhva. That means having achieved jnanam, paraṁ shantim achirena adhigacchati. He will get supreme peace. So labdhva means having achieved. Idaṁ viditvā. Viditvā means having known. This having known this, a devotee engages in devotional service and thus surpasses all these ritualistic puṇya-phalaṁ and achieves the highest destination, which is my abode. Krishna is saying in today's verse. So this is the summary study of today's verse. So I'd like to stop it here, and I'll take any questions that are there. Chant and be happy. Hare Krishna. All see, Prabhu. Wonderful way of putting forth the truth. They're so fortunate to have come across you. Hope they will get Krishna's mercy through you. I do not know. Only if they accept. First of all, I am no big person. But see, the thing is this. I mean, Prabhupada has explained everything. But if the disciple is not qualified, if he is not Shraddhavan, then he will not get Labhate Jnanam. Agnyascha Shraddhadhanascha Samshayatma Vinashyati Nayam Lokosti Naparo Nasukham Samshayatmanah. Ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness, they fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So, from my, I mean, they were respectful, but at the same time, did not have faith. So, that's unfortunate part. Srikant Tupurani. One has to reach that stage of bhakti where one does not ask material thing from Krishna and just want to remember and has a desire to serve Krishna. People worship Krishna for material desires. Yeah, that's right. Brahma want to create a big universe, and we want a small house. Situation is same. But no, but the pride in the position of Brahma is just unimaginable. I mean, of course, Brahma is in our case is a big sampradaya acharya, but otherwise, such power. I mean, you can do anything in the universe. Basically, anything in the universe. If you want to change some law, you can. So, I mean, when you have that much power, you will get intoxicated. When I create my house, yes, I will have some pride. But if I become the king of the universe, that pride is unimaginable. And you have to be very, very powerful in order to handle that situation. So, whenever we get higher position of power, it is actually not really um, a thing for our gratification. It is actually when we become more powerful, then we have to become more responsible. We have to become responsible, and we have to accept such positions with a spirit of service. Um, so I can always say, "Oh, I don't want to do this because then my pride will increase." But I have to change. For example, if I give, I mean, these classes, and many of you are, very kind, and you shower some praises, and over the years, we have received many praises, such praises. But I mean, that is your good quality. A devotee always sees good in others. But if I become, and oh yeah, you see, I give classes so well, and all this, that, this, that. If I think like that, that's immediately downfall. So when we come to a position where you know um, there is some reputation that we have to uphold for the movement's sake, for the Guru's sake, for Srila Prabhupada's sake, for Krishna's sake, for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sake, then that becomes a responsible position. And from that position, one has to perform responsible service because his service will then impact many others devotees, feelings about Krishna and everything, about devotional service and the whole bhakti yoga, Krishna consciousness. So, for example, when one becomes a temple president, that's not for one's, oh, now I'm a status temple president rank. It's not for that. That means now I have to, it's not that I'm the master and everybody serves me in the temple. No, I am the servant of all these people. In beginning of devotional service, we have to be attentive of our service. Whatever we are doing, whatever task is given to us, we have to take that with earnestness and we have to do that task nicely. So our attention is on doing our work, our seva. But as one becomes more and more senior, then his attention should be, because there is so much responsibility he will have, and he has to delegate effectively and thus expand the service of Krishna. I cannot do everything on my own. So, but all the service must be done. It is not that because I cannot do everything, I'll just do what I can. No. Ideally, we, yes, there is so much service, but I can only do this much. But it is not that, but that service came. So it is Krishna's blessing. It is a service which is beyond my capacity, individual capacity. So what I should do? Now I should engage others in such service so that it can be done. The service, we should not say no to that service. Um, that service, if I cannot do, then I have to, you know, engage others and delegate in such a way that they do. But then when they do it. Why they do it? They are not being paid. Then why do they do it then? Because of their feeling for you. Because of course they're feeling for Prabhupada, feeling for Krishna, and feeling for the devotees they're working under as well. So, as one increases his responsibility, then he has to delegate his services more and more and expand the service and engage everybody into the service. Um, and at that time, he will have to manage people. He will have to be attentive to the people who are doing the service. So he becomes their servant. He has to take care of those devotees who are doing the service. Now he does not do the service personally, but he takes care of the devotees who do the service. And how does he take care? By, of course, you know, uh, not that he will go there and wash their clothes, and not exactly in that way, but by guiding them. So a senior devotee means he is not like the master and everybody is his servant. He is actually the servant of the other servants. So the more we become higher in the position of responsibility, the more we become a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. And if one becomes even higher and higher, say GBC, for example, what is his role? He will have to manage many temple presidents. So manage means what? Oh, he gives orders and you do this, you do that, you do. Yes, of course, giving orders is also taking care of them by encouraging them in some, giving them some challenging goals or some service, or maybe okay, start a Rath Yatra, or let's start some traveling preaching or something which is always encouraging and keep the devotees enthusiastic. And in that way he has to serve them. That is actually a service to them. You have to serve them with whatever advancement we have done, and then they will serve their devotees in that temple. The temple presidents will serve the devotees in the temple, and sometimes the temple can be very big, and then there will be many departments. So devotees will manage, okay, one devotee will manage, say, about 20-30 devotees, and then every devotee. So, and those devotees who are heads of these devotees, they report to us, higher up in the chain of hierarchy. So as we go higher and higher, it is not that we become master and master of everybody. We become a servant of servant of servant. The person who is doing Krishna Seva is a servant, and the person who has to manage him is a servant of that servant, and the person who is managing the manager is the servant of the servant of the servant. So in that way, this is sampradaya. Of course, sampradaya in this way also, that of course the Krishna and then the parampara, the acharyas, and we become the acharya's servant, and acharya is his acharya's servant in that way. But in our mentality as well, even though the person may be a junior, if I approach my responsibility in a matter of service attitude, then I will be grounded. But if I feel that they are there for my gratification, um, I don't need to do service; they have to do service, and then I will just shake my leg and do something else. I will play around and fool around. That is not, and eventually people will also lose trust. Hey, what is this? I'm doing service. He's not doing, like, what is this? So, of course, sometimes we may encounter these kind of situations where maybe some senior devotee is not, similarly senior devotee, he does not engage in his service. Of course, as for the advancing devotee, he has to take inspiration from those who are doing the service and then not give up his own service. Yeah. This article, just now you saw. Hmm. This is an article about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I'll show you something. Okay. So this is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's life, a brief summary of his life. Hmm. So just before he passed away, about a week before he passed away, he said, okay, let me just read everything because there's one thing I want to show, but so he said, I have upset many persons' minds. Many might have considered me their enemy because I was obliged to speak the plain truth of service and devotion towards the absolute Godhead. I have given them all those troubles only so they might turn their face toward the personality of Godhead without any desire for gain and with unalloyed devotion. Surely someday they will be able to understand that. I advise all to preach the teachings of Rupa Raghunath with all energy and resources. Our ultimate goal shall be to become the dust of the lotus feet of Sri Sri Rupa and Raghunath Goswamis. You should all work conjointly under the guidance of your spiritual master with a view to serve the absolute knowledge, the personality of Godhead. You should live somehow or other without any quarrel in this mortal world, only for the service of Godhead. Do not please give up the service of Godhead in spite of all dangers, all criticisms, and all discomforts. Do not be disappointed, for most people in the world do not serve the personality of Godhead. Do not give up your own service, which is your everything and all. Neither reject the process of chanting and hearing of the transcendental holy name of Krishna, of Godhead. You should always chant the transcendental name of Godhead with patience and forbearance like a tree and humbleness like a straw. There are many amongst you who are well qualified and able workers. We have no other desire whatsoever. So he's saying, do not be disappointed, for most people in the world do not serve the personality of Godhead. Do not give up your own service. Sometimes Sometimes some devotees argue like this, hey, he's not doing, why I should do? So my question always to them is this. Okay, let's take a scenario where somebody is not doing their service. Okay, because of that maybe he won't go back to Godhead. So will you argue, hey, he's not going back to Godhead, why should I go? I'll also stay in the material world. Why, if he can stay in the material world, why can't I stay? Will we argue like that? So my point is, we want to go back to Godhead, but just because somebody is not doing, I also don't want to do. So who is at a loss? Just because somebody is not doing, why should I not do my service? So that is another thing. So because in devotional service, in Krishna consciousness, we will meet all kinds of people, in all kinds of modes. So some people are okay, you can get immediately inspired, everything. Some people may not be as, you know, um, forthcoming or something like that. But that should not discourage us or make us throw a tantrum, or because he's not doing, why I should do. Why you should not do? You don't want to go back to God? Okay, then you don't do. So we should not be losing our focus and take inspiration from those who are doing. Why our Puranas or Bhagavad Puran and Ramayana and all these things? Why are there histories of devotees who have done service? And Krishna says, "Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashrita bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavam agataha." Agataha means many persons in the past have achieved me. And then he says in the 415, Purvaihi purvataram kritam. Evam gyatva kritam karma purvairapi mumukshubhihi. Kuru karmaiva tasmatvam purvaihi purvataram kritam. Do as they did who have reached me. You follow that path. So, the histories, like Srimad Bhagavatam is a collection of historical incidences where devotees are there who achieved the perfection. And of course, there are also histories of those who did not, so to distinguish. But the thing is this, for every Prahlad Maharaj that made it back, there are millions, because Manushanam Sahasreshu Kaschit Yatati Siddhaye. There is a lot of history that happened, and we have studied in our history schools, First World War, Second World War. What is all this history then? These are the histories of people who did not make it back. They became some ruler of some country, Napoleon Bonaparte, and then what is that? Mussolini and Hitler and this and that. They are the ones who did not make it. So this is that history. Whereas our history is Puranam Amalam, spotless history. Why? Because the characters in these historical incidences, they all made it back. And why only such histories, selected histories are collected and given to us? So as to inspire us. And for every such successful devotee, there will be a million or billion unsuccessful devotees or not devotees or whatever. So we will take inspiration from those who made it or those who are on the way of making it. So similarly, if we encounter even among devotee association, of devotees who may not be as engaged or as this thing, enthusiastic, we don't need to lose our enthusiasm. We take inspiration from those who are enthusiastic and continue our service and try to encourage those who are not enthusiastic. When he's junior, okay, you can instruct him or something like that. When he's a bit senior, then if you do your service, then eventually he will see you. Oh, he's doing so much service, and I should also be doing something. Otherwise it's not good. So in that way, he will be encouraged. So just by our doing, it will do good both for us and him. Instead, if I maintain feelings like oh, he is this, I is that, everybody is this, everybody, so why should I do? I will go away from temple. Then you also did not succeed. They also did not succeed. Everybody in the material world. Then what? So that is not the point. So we need to know how to conduct ourselves among devotees and the nuances of behavior in the company of devotees. We have to know these things. A real scientist would try to prove Krishna through science, not try to create and imitate like a child imitating mother's cooking. Yeah. Science is not there to disprove. In fact, if you try to disprove God or deny God, then you're actually not science. Science means to know. When you don't want to know, when your agenda is not to know God or even have the possibility of inquiry into God, then that is not science. You are some propaganda machine. You're not science. What are your views about Acharya Prashant and Vedanta? Don't ask me irrelevant questions. Ask me relevant questions which is related to the class. You should know how to ask questions. You see how Arjuna was asking questions in Bhagavad-gītā. Krishna explains something, then he says, wait. Then Krishna said, I spoke to the sun god, and sun god spoke to his son spoke to his son, and that way parampara was coming down. And in the course of time, parampara was broken, and now I'm reviving it with you, Arjuna, because you're my devotee. Arjuna said, wait. You said you spoke to sun god, but sun god has been existing for many, many millions of years. You only are my age. How is it possible that you've spoken to sun god? Then Krishna said, oh, many times you and I have taken birth. So he's asking relevant questions. Krishna is saying something. Arjuna is like asking, how is that? What is that? What did you say? Why did you say like that? What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of that? Like that, he's asking questions. So that is proper question. So how to ask questions also we have to know from Bhagavad-gītā. You ask some irrelevant question, what is the point? We are trying to understand the subject of today's verse. And questions should be asked that will enhance our understanding of the subject under discussion, not bring up something which is totally irrelevant. Why is it so difficult to understand the Gita even after reading it? I don't know which edition you are reading then. Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gītā is quite easy to understand, easy to digest. It's not at all difficult. And if we, you know, put it into practice and engage in devotional service, then it will become even more easy and relishable. All doubts will be gone. Priyanshu, please tell us how to practice brahmacharya. It is very, very difficult. Please show some path to us. I mean, there are many verses, but the point is, Brahmachari Gurukule. First of all, we have to be in the Gurukul. That's why we have to stay in the temple first. If you want to practice brahmacharya at home, that is not brahmacharya. What is that? So I think one devotee used to tell me, of course, Gurukule is Sanskrit, but then he mixed with Tamil and said Brahmachari Gurukule, Grihastha Vitikule, Sannyasi Katukule. Ulla means inside, in. Katu means forest. Sannyasi Katukule, he is in the forest. Sannyasi is in the forest. Grihastha Vitikule. Vitu means house. Grihastha is staying in the house. And Brahmachari Gurukule. He, of course, that is Sanskrit. He stays in the Gurukul. So if you are in the Vitukule, if you are in the house, then you are a Grihastha. Grihastha means one who is situated, stha, in Griha. So like that, it's not possible to become brahmachari. So brahmachari we can become, first of all, you have to live in the temple, and that's it. You actually don't have to try too hard. You just have to stay in the temple and attend the whole program and hear the classes regularly, engage in service, and in that way fill your life with Krishna. And you will have no more attraction for women. Of course, there are many, you should not talk about women, you should not see the women, you should not think about women. These things are there. But these are all secondary instructions. Primary instruction is to become solidly established in Krishna's service and having a taste for it. And the taste will come with proper hearing. So, proper hearing and then chanting and then engagement in service, and fill your life with all activities of Krishna, with Krishna. And that's it. You will lose taste for any other thing, and then eventually you will become good brahmachari. So, but if you are not prepared to stay in the temple, then how to become brahmachari? Forget it. Shreya Sharma. My uncle called from Europe and we got into a similar debate like you did with Americans, but in the end he said language didn't exist 2000 years ago. So, so how is his Bhagavad-gītā correct and Srila Prabhupada giving us authentic Bhagavad-gītā? So that is his understanding that language did not exist 2000 years ago. But then, if you say that, then Jesus came 2000 years ago. He spoke, no? Then, if there was no language, then how did he speak? So this is some Western nonsense ideology that humans started some 10,000 or 100,000 years ago, and then slowly from ape they became man, and eventually learn how to cook food, fire, and everything, and then eventually they made some sounds like animals, and then eventually started to speak, and eventually language developed, and now this is what their understanding is. So this is called, I would say, it's a colonial mindset. They're still in that colonial hangover because they still think that everything Western is glorified, is glorious, and everything our culture is still everything is backward, barbaric, and all these things. They don't understand that they themselves are barbaric, and we are actually the advanced. Ours is actually the advanced culture. They don't know these things. So of course, I mean, Bhagavad-gītā, how can Krishna speak? He spoke 5,000 years ago. He spoke. He literally said that there was no language before 2,000 years ago. Okay, ask him. Was he there 2,000 years ago? Did you witness? Why is he talking nonsense? You are believing somebody. Yeah? Who is that you are believing that you have come to the conclusion that 2,000 years ago there was no language? How did you come to that conclusion? You didn't. You were not there. Hmm? Stupid. No? Stupid. I mean, All the temples and I mean all the things in India, the construction, the architecture, I mean the kind of science they had. I mean, how did they do that? The carving and all these things. I mean, there's zero knowledge. How does this, such advanced arts, remnants of such advanced arts are still visible for us now? And they did not have any language. They were so backward, but somehow they are more advanced than us in all this science. This architecture or many other things. In fact, agriculture and everything. In fact, 1750 AD, which is just what 270 years ago. India's wealth was so much that a quarter of the world's wealth was in India. 1/4 of the entire wealth of the world was in India. That was the status of India. That's just 270 years ago. So, and they did not know, and they were doing business and everything. That's just 250 years ago, and we're talking about like 5,000 years ago, like Mahabharat, Parishit Maharaj. I mean, they all spoke. So you have faith in your stupid historians or whoever said that. We have faith in Krishna. And in the end, we can see whose life is better, whose life is more informed, more enlightened, more happier, and more meaningful. So, if with your conclusions, whatever you have understood about life and what we have understood about life, whose situation is actually better, happiness wise, the person who is Krishna conscious is of course better. Any materialistic person cannot claim the happiness that a Krishna conscious person has. He is just interested in some animalistic things. That is not a sign of advancement. So, when he has such things, then how to even judge anything that he says as credible? He doesn't know who he is. He did not. He doesn't know why he is born. He doesn't know. But we have an answer. We have the law of karma to say. What does he have to say? At least we have an answer, no? Whether he believes it or not, we have at least some explanation. What is his explanation? Chance, accident. So just meet with an accident, no? Then see how your life is. Everything is an accident for you. Why don't you meet with an accident? So I mean, people talk nonsense. Everything is an accident. What is this? Who- Abuji, but how to convince parents? If I speak this to them, they will be like, "Oh, leave it. Do what we're telling you to do." So in that situation, what I can do? Every person will have to face this who is serious. The main thing is that you have to become serious. And at least start the process, and eventually Krishna will give you intelligence. He will guide you from within how to leave such association. You know, every family is different. I cannot say one formula. For some people, okay, parents understand. Very rare, very rare. But many people, most of them, 99%, they don't understand. They don't accept. So how to do? Well, I don't know what is your situation, whether you stay with your parents or you're staying in a hostel somewhere else. If you're away from your parents, then you have a good chance of, associating with devotees. If you are with your parents, then you know, um, maybe for example, for holidays, okay, I'll go to this temple and, do some seva and, you can go to maybe Pondicherry or temple there and, do some seva and be with the devotees and come back, something like that. You have to do something. Eventually, you wait for the time. Krishna will also guide you as Paramatma. And then you can make the move. You know, of course, the parents won't accept. I mean, the parents will say, "Oh, you're going to Krishna? Go, yeah, very good, bacha, acha kar rahe ho." Nobody will say that. So because they're attached. So you have to find ways and means to do it. Eventually, once you are fixed in this, then they will not disturb you. Even after you have gone, they will disturb you many times. They will try all kinds of things, police or this or that, whatever. They will try many things. So that is when Krishna is testing you, your determination. So all these things you can pass, provided you are serious. You want to do it. You should want like your life depends on it. And actually, it does. If we don't think that our life depends on it, then we have not understood the seriousness and the gravity of it. But actually, our life depends on it, and that you have to understand. First, you have to be convinced, and then Krishna will make arrangements. Saurav, that means Maurya empires, Ashoka, Chanakya, they communicate like monkey. What foolishness! Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he's talking. I think even the modern scientists don't say that we don't have communication before 2000 years, even though they don't say that. I don't know where you got it from. Some real stupid idea. Don't believe in anything. They also convince us before 1 million years ago we lived on caves of Africa. All nonsense. Yeah, yeah, all kind of things. He is just judging everything on books such as Homo sapiens. Oh, so he has a book that he is believing. So we also have a book. Now you judge whether the subject matter you compare which book is talking about higher things and better things and much more loftier things and much advanced things, and you can see which one is God is speaking, one is some idiot is speaking. Of course, I'll take the statement of God, not of an idiot. So Indians, Indian parents have a famous dialogue nowadays. Grihastha dharma is biggest dharma. But they don't know the difference between Grihamedhi and Grihastha. The Grihastha dharma is biggest dharma. Can you show some reference? The Grihastha dharma is biggest dharma. Every statement of Bhagavad-gītā, I mean, of our Vedas is condemning Grihastha. I mean, Grihastha is something at least. Even Grihastha, staying there is not recommended. Eventually, one has to leave that. So, household life is condemned in every page of Bhagavatam. And here, Grihastha dharma is highest dharma. I mean, where? Where is he getting this from? It is just a regulation of sex. Regulations are not the highest instructions. Regulations are to curtail our unbridled sense gratification. Okay. Don't do with every other woman. Just have wife, and then have sex with the wife, and then produce children and take responsibility. And in this way, lead a religious life and you know do sacrifices and do charity to the brahmanas, and in this way advance yourself. Sthāne sthita shruti. Here, keep hearing Krishna Katha. So that is the whole point. I mean, what is Grihastha Dharma? You ask them, what is Grihastha Dharma? Can you define what is Grihastha Dharma? Have family, work a job, get a house, get children, retire, die. This is Grihastha Dharma. The animals are also doing that. Animals have better, they're maintaining many children. They are better Grihasthas, no? Nonsense. Thank you, Prabhuji. You solved one of my biggest problems. Well, I don't know. Yeah, if you become serious, and then eventually everything will fall in place. Krishna will arrange. So you have to make some ideas. Of course, one shot they will not accept everything, but step by step, you can take, and Krishna will give you more and more intelligence. येन माम उपयान्ति ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन माम उपयान्ति तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकम्. Those who take to it seriously. Krishna will give more and more intelligence how to come back to him. He's asking us that we are mentally speculating, but instead they are. These people have no intelligence. Okay, what is this? Any Western things maximum are propaganda except some miraculous invention in physics and technology. That's true. They don't have actually much. We have, I mean, our culture, our knowledge, our history, our heritage is so rich, and these Westerners have just sprung up in some few hundred years back, and suddenly, they are jumping around like monkeys and saying that, we are the greatest people on earth. And they convinced us somehow. You have to give them credit for that. I mean, we got convinced by some barbarians. So hats off to us. And why did that happen? Because our Brahminical culture, we did not take it seriously. We took it for granted, and then we just like having this birth-based stupid caste system and everything and all, and no reading, no understanding, complete fall downfall of Brahmin culture. And now that is why India is what it is now. Otherwise, we are actually supposed to be at the forefront of the world. That's where we actually belong. And even now, I mean, the modern advancement of India materially is not actually the real advancement. I mean, Indians are very excited. Oh, we are so forward now. We have so much GDP growth. We have industries. We have, all these kinds of power. We have. But honestly, that is the Western OKR, objectives and key results, and KPIs, key performance index. We are judging our advancement on Western this thing with a flavor of Indian flavor. I mean, so that is not the real India, real Bharat. Bharatvarsha means um, just yesterday, no today, somebody shared with me a video. This one minister, I don't know whether to call him a minister or yeah, I think it's Invest India. I think it's an arm of the government which helps foreign investors, set up businesses in India and all of that industries. Now, Deepak Bagla, he's Invest India CEO, managing director. So he was giving a speech, and he's saying that India, is advancing at a pace which is unprecedented and this and that, high sounding words. Certainly, I mean there is some material progress in India, and he was saying that there are three pillars: um, social, economic, and what is the other one? Something. So, but religious, nothing. So this is where, of course, there is some religious um, fervor also that is increasing in India. People are willing to connect more back with their roots, with their original culture, and everything. There is some interest in that, which is a good sign. I don't say no. Um, but the focus should be on Krishna consciousness, on really understanding our core values and preaching that. But if we keep it at the material level and not really become a proper Krishna conscious country, then it will fail. Because if we chase the same things that the Americans did or the other Western countries did, and think that now we are advancing, well, then they are advanced. Look at where they ended up. So we will end up something similar because we have the same mindset. They convinced us that their way of education, their way of thinking, and everything is good. And we have a system of education right now that is promoting just the Western way of education. Our Gurukul system is completely replaced by the Western education system. So, and our idea of what advancement is all according to Western ideology, capitalist agenda. That's not India. That's not Bharat. So we have to really have some informed, enlightened faith and conviction in our own Krishna conscious culture that belongs to Bharatvarsh. Um, if we just say that our culture is very old and this is all we all these things we have, and in this way we will compete with the West. That's not the whole idea. That's not the plot is lost. Because the end result of that, like one of the things he said in the speech was that 10 years ago, India was 123 or 132 or something rank in the amount of data consumption, mobile data. 123rd in the world. And today, India is number one in the data consumption. And that he cited as an example of advancement. But I don't consider it advancement. That means a lot. I mean, there are, of course, good views and good things that can be spread with social media, especially our culture. But I mean, honestly, what are majority of people doing with the data consumption? These numbers don't mean anything. In fact, it can be misconstrued. In fact, it was misconstrued because if you just consider that the data consumption we are the highest in the world, and therefore, you know, we are the most advanced in the world. That's completely not correct. If only these statistics matter, then I mean we are really losing what is the quality of such consumption. Everybody is consuming data and doing what? They're watching these classes. Only 24 live people here. And I'm sure if some cricket match is going on, I mean, millions will watch that. So what are they doing with the data? What is the subject matter of that? Just increasing some, communication, some intercourse, some, discussion, some noise. That is not equal to signal. There is a signal and there is noise. Signal means something which makes sense. That is this Bhagavad-gītā, this Krishna consciousness is the signal. Everything else is noise. Huh. So if just the noise increases, oh, we are making more noise now. There's so many people consuming data. Oh, people are hearing all kinds of things, talking all kinds of things. Is this advancement? If you make more noise than others, that's not advancement. That's not a sign of advancement. So these numbers, can be projected as, some good thing, but that is not the real Bharat. Bharat means we have to teach the world, not like, oh, now we are fifth in the world. Why are you comparing with their benchmarks? Okay, fine. What are you doing with all that fifth or fourth or first or whatever? What are you doing with that? He also said, now we are the most populous country in the world. We have just 3 weeks ago, we overtook China, he said. Now we are the most populous country in the world. Again, what does that mean? Does it mean anything? Then it only means one thing, that you have that many people to now take care of in spiritual life. Otherwise, the king, I mean, fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the king shares 1/6 of the sinful reactions of his subjects if he doesn't guide them. If they are doing any sin, he will get 1/6. If they are doing any pious, he will get 1/6. So, and people are still, there are slaughterhouses, there are this and that. I mean, so many things are going on still. So, we have to look at the quality of life, the character of people, which is not measured by mere numbers of some high sounding numbers. No. Statistics is a very, very misleading subject. It can be very misleading. What do these numbers mean when the quality is completely lacking? With statistics, I can make something which is absolutely hopeless sound very hopeful and very inspiring. And I can make the most inspiring thing hopeless. And that's what statistics can do. If anyone knows what statistics actually is, they know that you can present the same data in different angles, making it sound good or bad. What narrative you want to project, what narrative you want to convey, you can use statistics to manipulate the reality to suit that narrative and convey that narrative. You can do that. So, I'll give you an example. You know, during COVID, they're talking about efficacy of vaccines. Oh, 95% efficacy, 90% efficacy, 70% efficacy. You know what actually it means? For example, first of all, the trials are all skewed and all doctored and a lot of scam. Let us for simplifying the situation, let us take out all the scam out of the picture and just let us really study. Okay, there was a vaccine. Let's say it is effective. Now, suppose in 1,000 people, without the vaccine, say 10 people die, hmm? and or say 5 people die out of 1,000. Now, even the 1,000 also, like what is the age group of people who are dying? That also should be there. But let's simplify everything, and let's say out of 1,000, 5 people die. If they don't take the vaccine, 5 people die out of every 1,000. Now, if after taking the vaccine, one person dies out of 1,000, so 5 and 1, so the deaths are 20%. So the deaths have decreased by 80%. So 80% efficacy. This is how they're actually marketing. Oh, they're 80% effective, 90% effective, 10 out of 1,000 and 1 out of 1,000. Now, again, the sample data, I mean, what kind of age groups there are, that has to also ask, what if the, the people who had, a lot of comorbidities, a lot of other health complications, and they got some, COVID, and then they died because of that. And sometimes it is not even because of COVID. They had COVID and they had other things, they died of the other thing, but they counted among COVID deaths. So let's take out all those complications and manipulations just for the, so this is called relative risk reduction, RRR. Relatively, okay, 5 and now 1. So 5 minus 1, 4. 4 divided by 5 is 0.8, and that into percentage, 80%. So 80% reduction. So 80% efficacy of this vaccine. That is called relative risk reduction. But if you see absolute risk reduction, what is the actual risk of the disease itself without any vaccine? 5 people are dying out of every 1,000. That means 0.5% danger of this disease. 99.5% nothing will happen. 0.5%. Now with the vaccine, 0.1%. So the difference is only 0.4% efficacy. This is called absolute risk reduction. Now this is simple statistics. What is actually only 0.4% efficacy? The risk reduction is only 0.4%. But it is touted as 80%. So what is less than 1% is touted as 80%. So what I'm trying to say is the same data can be presented and marketed in different ways with statistics. So if I just show some numbers, high sounding numbers, they don't mean anything. What is the quality of that thing? And that absolute and relative risk reduction. This is just scraping the surface. There is a lot more complexity to the whole issue. A lot more manipulation, lot more. I mean, there are so many things. I don't want to go into that. But I'm just saying, like, how we can manipulate and tell what narrative we want to tell. So, this modern India, which has a lot of pride in itself and has some idea of some roots of India, and then at the same time chasing the Western ideologies or Western ideological perfections, which are highest GDP and highest this thing and highest that. Those are not the real thing. Okay, yes, you have to have GDP. Yes, all these things are necessary. Okay, there has to be livelihood. There has to be all these things, but it has to be organized. The whole goal should not be just high GDP. What kind of businesses are you enabling with your Invest India, for example? Are you enabling businesses like meat production? Then that is a no. That is a huge sin. So they don't see this quality, just the numbers, revenue. Whether it is killing a goat or killing a cow, or whether it is selling wheat, or whether it is manufacturing of semiconductors or T-shirts, or whatever it is. Everything is same. It's not same. There is sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. So these numbers don't mean anything actually. real advancement. Okay, facilities is good. Okay, we can use, for example, now there is some digital payment system between India and Singapore, using Pay Now in Singapore, and UPI in India. There is some connection, so money can be sent back and forth. Okay, good. But what do people send money for? Again, okay, we will seek donations maybe for Krishna. That is good, well and good. It's proper use of this system. But if I pay for something which is a meat product, or something which is, say, some it can be anything. I mean, if I watch movie because of, I don't know, I'm just throwing ideas. But if it's not for Krishna consciousness, then all these interactions, these ease of interactions, will bring about a situation where there is too much to consume, and I will not have time to consume the real thing, which is Krishna consciousness, to read Bhagavad-gītā, to attend these classes. That I will not do. I will be distracted by Nirnam Santi Sahasrashaha Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grihamedhinam Srotavyadini Rajendra. So from thousands of subjects, we have increased to millions of subjects. And now our time is just preoccupied, and our human life is being taken away. We are being robbed of our lifetimes with so-called conveniences and so-called opportunities. We're just exploring and exploring. Oh, like a kid in a candy store. Oh, he's going wild. Oh, there are so many things now, so many things. I can choose this candy, that candy, that can. So this is how we are behaving, like children, absolute children. So there actually a spiritual flooding actually rising somehow, but few groups of youth following it. ISKCON doing their Namata program in villages. Like some Kattar Sanatan Kattar Hindu going on. After judging it, I find it's a very different kind of bogus thing. They're just increasing hatred between Hindu Muslim, and I'm sure know nothing about Sanatan culture. Yeah, this is another thing. They should know how to, like how Prabhupada preached. He never like went a campaign against Muslims or Christians, nothing like that. He in fact embraced their ideas of God consciousness and encouraged them to follow their own religion properly. And if you want more knowledge, you can always come to our Sanatan Dharma. We have highest. Religion is never like two different things. Although it is propagated according to different time and circumstances, the aim is to make us submit to God, and with that is consistent among all religious systems. But just that in our Sanatan Dharma, you know, it's more very sophisticated. We don't need to hate other religions, but more important, we first need to know what really Sanatan culture means. In this case, only Srila Prabhupada's mission working well. Yeah. I think they need to attack organizations like Ramakrishna Mission, Sai Baba Mission first. They are more doing harm for Sanatan than any Muslim, I think. In these cases, these Kattar Sanatanis don't do anything. Yeah, so we will take up that role. You're absolutely right, Prabhuji, what you're saying. Now, some days ago, I saw a YouTube channel claiming that Indian government need to officially start porn industry. It will show how much advanced we are. And yeah, one of the things that he said, this Deepak Bagla, who is that Invest India initiative chairman. So he was saying that some of the goals for them are to make India a tourist destination, a wellness destination, health and wellness destination, maybe through Ayurvedic and all these things, yoga and all this, whatever. And then there's a department for northeastern states development. There's a department for Jammu and Kashmir development. And there is a new project, he said, very interesting, to make India a filmmaking destination. So people from all over the world, they will come to India for making films, and then there's all this thing. I mean, I'm telling you, this is a noise. You are increasing more and more facility for noise, and people will be lost. Now, these things may be seen as advancement, but actually, when people start to interact with those things, the social intercourse will create such a turmoil, and the society will spiral down because they don't take real things seriously, which is Krishna consciousness. They just get more and more. And you're saying they're saying they should, Indian government should officially start porn industry. This is rubbish. It should be banned. In fact, the video that I'm currently making about abortion, one of the measures that I'm suggesting to the governments is that ban porn, punish porn. Punish. Those who are selling, those who are acting, those who are... Punish the whole industry. Absolutely punish. Because if a man sees all these things, then he will get all these ideas and then he will actually do it one day. I mean, and even otherwise, I mean, it's an addiction that is completely renders the human incapable of any, achievement. Wastes away the human life. The animals looking at the genital. What is this? Prabhupada said vagina looking civilization. That is what it is. It will somehow much advance according to the scale of America. Yeah, America now they don't know who is man and who is woman also. So, okay, I'll stop it here. जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद, हरि हरि बोल, हरे कृष्ण, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. So next session we will start with the 9th chapter. Hare Krishna.